Okay, we are live. Sorry about that, everyone. If you're watching and you were looking for us, I had some technical difficulties, but we are live now. I'm here today with Master Sunnie Fredricks. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining me. Sorry for the snafu on being a little late. How everything is going?
Going really well. Yeah, I'm in North Carolina right now. So my husband's in the military, and so I travel back and forth a lot. But yeah, so it's a beautiful day, so I can't complain.
Nice. Now, how long have you been doing the back and forth thing?
So as long as we've been married, actually. So we're about a little over 4 years into this. But it's what we knew. We knew it was how it was going to be from the get-go. We really support each other's careers, and he knows that mine is at the studio in Alaska. And so yeah, we make it work, and we just appreciate the time together. So
Awesome. Now, when you're in North Carolina, are you doing any training or teaching?
so I teach on Zoom still. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So unfortunately, there aren't any studios super close by. But yeah, so I teach on Zoom back to my studio back home, and then also I do all of our social media, all of our email, all of the things. So I stay plenty busy, and I'm never here for super long periods of time. But yeah.
Awesome. So are you teaching every night on Zoom?
No, so it varies. The main class that I am always teaching is our tumbling class. So once we get a bit more about me, but yeah, so I teach a tumbling class for our dons, and that's something that I do no matter where I am. And so no matter where my travels take me, I am on Zoom for that class, no matter what. So
Yeah, tumbling class via Zoom. I gotta imagine that is.
Yeah, we have like the prime spot. I'm like up on the mirror in the studio at like the highest point to make sure I can see the whole room. And it's really cool though. My sister really stepped up and I taught her how to spot. And so, yeah, we got a pretty good system down. It's worked out. First couple of weeks, we first did it because we've been doing this, for been a couple of years now that we've done it this way. And the first couple, I was always a little bit like, okay, how's it gonna go? But it's always gone great. And she's somebody I know I can really trust. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that does sound awesome. And I know just with martial art, like karate classes, it was hard doing Zoom classes because you're very hands-on. And
Yes.
I've done some, rolling and Ninja Warrior type stuff with things, very small parts of that. So I can't imagine where you're like, I just want to tell them to put this there.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I try to reach through the screen very often.
We have some people saying hi. Master Olson says she was freaking out. Yeah, I'm sorry. It was just about time to log on. I was like, oh crap, I didn't set it up, and then Facebook changed things around, but we're on. So she says hello.
Hello, Master Olson.
Lindsay from the UK says, oh, actually 87 degrees in UK. That's nice for once.
Awesome.
And Master Melcury says Tang Soo.
Tang Soo.
So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. It's cool that, like you said, were you doing Zoom like that, like before COVID, or was that something that happened with COVID?
So I, like most people, had never heard of Zoom. So we were doing on FaceTime. So we used FaceTime on, yeah. So in a sense, yes, just not with the Zoom platform. Yeah, that was a whole shift in itself. But we appreciated the fact that it made it a little bit easier than trying to do it on FaceTime. But yeah, so I was thinking about that. We're a couple years deep into it. So
I love it. You were a trendsetter. You had no idea.
Yeah. Oh man, maybe unfortunately, but
Oh, but that's, like you said, it's nice to be able to still connect with people, even though how far away are you? We're North Carolina to Alaska. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, over 3,000 miles. So yeah, super appreciative for it, and just the support that our students give us. And yeah, it's really awesome. As we know, just no matter where we are, we have the support in anything that we do when it comes to Tang Soo Do. So it's really cool.
Nice. Now I know you did some travel, not to Alaska, but you had a sibling get married recently.
I did. Yep. In Montana. And oh my gosh, that's awesome. My dad is the oldest of 7 siblings, and each of his siblings had at least 3 or 4 kids. And so I have 32 first cousins. And so you get all of us together and it's going to be a good time. So yeah, pretty great.
That's awesome. And that area is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I love that. And you said he grew up there?
Yeah, so that's where my dad was, well, it's kind of funny. He was actually, he spent a good portion of his childhood in Fairbanks, which is how we all ended up back in Alaska, but majority of his childhood and that of his siblings was in Montana. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's kind of start with how you got started in the martial arts. You mentioned being back in Fairbanks. So maybe give us a roundabout way of how you got started in the martial arts.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people have told me like, oh, you were born into it. But I truly believe it's what I was born to do. So I was key-upping before I was talking. And from what I'm told, it was very intentional. It wasn't just random screams. I had my key up down before any words came out of my mouth. And so I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and I grew up in that studio. And it kind of made just the way it all fell into place was really awesome. So I couldn't officially start training until I was 5 because we didn't have Tiny Tigers in our studio yet. But once I did, I was rearing and ready to go. And then when I got my Chodan, it was so funny because, just like everybody does, you have your uniforms laid out, you have the certificates laid out, and Master Wick would, read out your Dan number. So it's my turn and I'm up there and he starts giggling. And I'm like, what? Like, is my name spelled wrong? Like, what is going on? And so my birthday is 3/8/1995. My Dan number is 038,500. And so even just little things like that, it was like, man, like this was in my destiny. This is what I was going to do. And once I started, I never stopped. We have different avenues in life, but Tang Soo Do is the one thing that has been a constant literally since I was born. So.
Wow. That's awesome. That's also, it had a connection to you, but the 38500, it's such a satisfying, like mine's 36167 and it's fine, but having that 500, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And just I could not believe, you could not get closer to my birthday. And I was like, this
right.
is all right, meant to be.
Nice. You said what day, what's your birthday?
March 8th of 1995. So
okay.
3/8/95. So
nice. Yeah. And my oldest daughter is March 5th. So right around that
cool.
time. So I like the March birthdays.
Yes.
Master Mukherjee says hello from Austin. And then we got Bobby Nelson saying hello as well.
Awesome. Hello. Thanks for being here.
Oh, and apparently you share a birthday with him.
I do. Yes. Hello, birthday buddy.
That's awesome. Can you remember, like, what's the earliest memories you have of training at the Dojang?
Yeah. So my earliest memory, okay. So like I said, couldn't start training officially until I was 5. And that was in 2000. And then we had Worlds in obviously, July of 2000. And so I remember but not necessarily the first day, but I remember those beginning days so well because we had a demo team that year. And it's something that, as you know, takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of space. And so as it got closer to actual competition day, we would rent out bigger spaces. And so we had rented out this hangar at the local military base in Fairbanks. And it was very cold. It was winter. It's Alaska. What are you going to expect? But so we get in there, well over 30 people and the heat's out. But it's like, well, we're here. We got to practice. So all of us are decked out in our full snow gear, going through this demo, trying to even move in these things. And so go through it a few times. And my mom has always been the head choreographer for our demos back since 92. And so she was like, okay. She was like, everybody snow gear off for the last run. And we all were just like, I'm sorry, what? And Master Wick just kind of looks at her, looks at us and was like, snow gear off, figure it out. So I bet we were a couple seconds ahead for that whole thing because we just wanted it done. But yeah, so those are some of my earliest memories is practicing for that demo. I can tell you the little four move routine I had with my little cartwheel and I had that down pat. But yeah, so it was pretty cool that beginning of my journey as a little white belt was competing at Worlds and kind of lead up to it were my first memories from that.
That's great. Yeah. That's always the trick is finding enough space. Like you can put it in chunks, for a couple of months, but at some point you've got to put it all together. So yeah, luckily, where we are, we have a pretty decent sized space and outside.
Oh, nice.
and we don't really, the weather is not that bad. So
Well, and the other thing, ceiling space was a concern for that one too, because that year we threw one of my brothers. So that was the thing. Anytime my mom chose something, like everybody was like, there's no way we can do that. She was like, well, I'll do it with my own kid, because then if something happens, nobody can be mad. It's my kid, right? And so have you ever heard of the Eskimo toss, where they like pull the blanket and the person goes flying? Have you ever heard of that?
oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was like, we're going to do an Eskimo toss, and we're going to send my son up into the rafters in a flying sidekick. And everybody was like, what? And she was like, yeah, it's going to happen. And I mean, they made it happen. But so ceiling space was really important to practice that I guess you went pretty high up there, but it was super fun.
Awesome. For those of you, or for those of the people watching that don't maybe know your family, maybe just give a quick rundown of, we keep talking about your mom, talk about your mom and dad real quick, and maybe your siblings. I imagine everyone trained at some point, right?
You got it. Yeah. So I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and everybody is at least a Chodan. I have a brother who's an Idan, and his wife just started training, and she's an 8th cup. And then I have my sister who's also an Idan, and then my other 3 brothers stopped at Chodan. And then my dad is a 4th degree master, and my mom is a 5th degree master. And so it is truly, truly in my blood. And I have been told several times that before I was even, like 6 months old, there was another student who was born around my same age, about 10 days after me, and his sister trained. So our siblings were in the same class, and Master Wick used to carry us around and take us up to the front of the class and like put us down in the stretches and things like that. And so the family aspect of Tang Soo Do truly couldn't hit home more than it does for me. And just that bond means everything. So. And it's cool too, because even though my siblings have stopped at Chodan, life can take you other places, but we still know we can always count on them. Like if we told them tomorrow we needed them in the studio, they'd be there. And so we still do things as a family, and it's just, it's really fun. I feel very blessed to have that opportunity.
That's awesome. And I appreciate that, because that's pretty much what my family is. My wife's a 5th degree black belt. I'm a 4th degree. My oldest just got her Edan this year, and on Saturday, my youngest is testing for black belt.
Awesome. Oh, that's so cool. Congratulations.
And then it's cool. I have so many friends, and we'll talk about these guys like Master Malbrook and Master Setianto. Our kids are growing up together, and it's just like you said, it's a family affair, not just our own family, but the extended family as well. And I'm sure you have that same thing up in Alaska as well.
Definitely. And my husband trains too. So he's a Chodan, and because of military nature of that, trying to get him in one place long enough to test for Chodan. But we train together all the time. And it really is cool. And the whole reason we actually met at the studio, he was doing split second, and that was how we met. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It really having that bond, especially within your own family, it's so cool. So special.
Yeah. That's actually how Aaron and I met as well. We met at the Dojang.
Really awesome. Yeah. See, it happened.
So like you said, it's for us, it's the same thing. It's a family thing. So for those of you watching, not next week, but the week after, I'm actually going to be interviewing Sunnie's parents together. So that'll be really exciting.
So excited.
Your dad and I was a second year candidate, and he was a first year candidate.
Awesome.
So I remember getting a chance to talk to him some, through a master's clinic. So it's cool.
They're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be the first husband and wife combo interview on Meet the Masters. So
awesome.
That's pretty exciting. It's what's also cool is doing all these interviews. You have people with various degrees of technology deficiency or good at.
True.
I guess your dad is not a big technology guy.
Not his thing. Yeah, definitely. Yep. We'll leave it at that. Not his thing.
Well, growing up in Montana and Alaska,
true.
Probably in the woods a lot.
Yes, exactly. Telephones, he can tell you anything, but like this kind, if he knows what button to push, he's solid. So yeah.
So growing up, how was training? Like you mentioned Master Wick. How was your Tang Soo Do training back then?
Yeah. So my kind of my journey with Master Wick actually starts well before Tang Soo Do even was a part of it. Like I said, I mean, granted, it's been a part of my life forever, but
Right.
well before I was on that floor. So my aunt was getting married in Montana, as I mentioned. So one of my dad's several sisters getting married in Montana, and it was right when I was supposed to be born. And so he was, supposed to go to this wedding. Some of my siblings were in the wedding, and so they're all supposed to pick up and go to Montana right around when I'm due. And my mom's like, "Yeah, go." She would never say anything different. So she's like, "Yeah, definitely go." And he's like, "Okay, well, don't have the baby till I get back." And she's like, "Totally. Like I have any control over that?" Yeah, sure. But so my mom's friends start calling her. And so my parents, where I grew up, it's about 45 minutes away from anything. It's in the middle of nowhere. And so there's not just like, you can't just get in a taxi and go to the hospital. But so her friends are calling her and asking her how she's doing. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm totally fine. Everything's good." Master Wick calls her. "Yeah, I'm good. Totally fine." Well, then about 45 minutes later, after she talks to Master Wick, she gets a knock on the door. She's like, "You've got to be kidding me. Like, I don't want to get up right now." So she gets up, goes to the door. And my parents never got visitors either. Like I said, like they live in the middle of the woods in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And so she was like, "What the heck?" And so opens the door, it's Master Wick. And he was like, "Hey, let's go to town and let's go get a Coke." And she was like, "I don't drink soda. Like, see you later." And he was like, "Okay, like let's go to town and get a nice tea. Like, I don't really care what we get, but we're going to town." And I was born about an hour and a half later. So yeah. And so people asked him all the time, they were like, "Man, like, how did you know?" Because several of her friends had called her. She said she was fine. She told him the same thing. She was fine. And he just said, "I heard it in her voice." And that was truly, that was who he was. He saw people deeply. He understood people really well. And so I truly never knew a day in my life without him. He was family, he'd be at our house for Sunday dinners. He supported me in everything that I did. And he definitely, the early days of training, for sure, he always had a sign that said, "I yell because I care." He lived up to that. He was a strict instructor for sure, but you never doubted his care for you. So it was incredible. I feel just so blessed to have had that opportunity and to have him play such a huge role in my life. And yeah, I know that he is a big part of why I am who I am today.
Awesome. I love that. I need someone to make me yell because I care.
Yeah.
A couple more people saying hello. Master McCarty from Alabama says hi. Master Chappell from the UK checking in. And Master Wheeler says Tong Soo from Region 5. So
Tang Soo. Hello, everyone.
got lots of people from all over the world checking in and watching. So that's pretty cool. So you said that it was kind of in your blood. Do you remember, was there a moment where you were like, this is my thing? Like, did you kind of realize it early on, or like when you got the black belt, you really tried to like ramp up? Was there a moment where you kind of had that light bulb click?
So growing up, I was incredibly busy. So, you add in that 45-minute drive anywhere you go, add in being the youngest of 6 kids. And so you have 6 kids trying to be in different places. And so I never really had a moment where things were ever really calmed down, or I ever really had that time of like, what am I going to do? It was never, it never even crossed my mind to not do Tang Soo Do. And I think part of that too is the lead up into it, like the fact that like I was so rearing to go, like as early as I can remember. And so the fact that I, having a start date of my 5th birthday be so special to me, that's something that I was so excited about. And that excitement has never left. I was a competitive gymnast for 15 years. I had some injuries and things like that took me out for a few years. And Tang Soo Do, I never stopped. And and I think that's kind of how I knew that it was going to be my path, was the fact that as I saw these other things kind of come and go, like I said, I was competitive gymnast, that stayed consistent, but there were years, whether it was coaching situations or things like that, where I wasn't competing. I danced on and off, but it was always Tang Soo Do. That was always my home. And so I think it really was just a matter of, there was never a moment that I ever doubted it. So I think it's kind of the reverse for me. And it's just, what I've always loved to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a great note. Like I started when I was older. I was 20, well, older. I was 21.
Mhm.
So I'm always interested in seeing the people that came up through the ranks and hearing their story. And everyone's different. Like some people have their moments where they go away for college or take a break at some point. But it's I love hearing that because once I found it, actually this year it'll be 20 years. November it'll
Awesome.
be 20 years.
Congratulations.
So as soon as I got my black belt, I was teaching full time for Master Godwin. So I was full in right away. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that. But having kids, I understand how hard that is as a child. Like you said, you're so connected. You got so much going on. So
Yeah.
I admire, the fact that you were able to stay so committed for so long.
Thanks. Yeah, there were some interesting years in there for sure. Because at the peak of my gymnastics career, I was training 40 hours a week. And then, and then you add school, and I was homeschooled until high school. So that was a big help. And that was a choice that I made mainly because my schedule was so busy. But yeah, so I trained for 40 hours in gymnastics and then so for karate, but I never it never went away. Like we made it work. We figured out times where I could be there. And thankfully at that time I was older, so I could go to adult class and things like that and just make it work. And there just, was never an option to not make it work in my mind. So.
Nice. I love that. So you mentioned, the memories of the 2000 World Championship demo team. After that, like growing up through the ranks, were you a competitor? You obviously did the competitive gymnastics, but did you consistently compete in Tang Soo Do?
So there weren't a ton of regional events, mainly because our region is so spread out.
Right.
The closest studio to us is 5 hours away. So we would have our regional tournaments, and those I did compete in. And kind of the main reason I did, just like I had the immediate family bond within my own family, I then that kind of was that much more special to me and meant that much when I had my friends, in different cities that did the same thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to go be with people who love what I love. And so that was kind of my motive behind it. There was a break where I missed a few world championships, mainly because of expense, because competitive gymnastics is not cheap. And I traveled all winter with competitive gymnastics. And so then that was kind of how that worked out. But I definitely, I loved competing mainly for the opportunity just to see my family, see my extended family.
Now, Alaska, so Alaska is basically its own region.
We're our own region.
Right?
Yeah, we didn't used to be. So we used to be part of Region 1 and now we're our own. And so we're Region 19 up here solo. So, yep.
I think technically if there was something there, Guam is part of it too, right?
Yeah, true. Well, and Master Utek used to live in Guam. So
That's right. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And now Master Utek's he's the regional director, right?
Yes.
Maybe share, do you have any stories of Master Utek throughout the years?
Oh man. Gosh, I just feel so blessed. I've had the opportunity to train with all of the incredible people I've had the opportunity to train with. I think, when you're younger, you don't necessarily recognize maybe how unique it is or how special it is. But man, have I always looked up to him, that's for sure. And I would get so excited. That's another reason that I wanted to go travel and go to different tournaments and things like that, was because I got to see him and I got to see, the other masters in the region who just treated me like their own. I think that was another thing that was just really special. There's a picture of the day I got awarded my brown belt, and why Master Utek and Master Draper were there, I have no idea, but they were. And so that was it was really cool because just kind of seeing the smile and just the amount of knowledge, talent, humility that all of the masters that I've had the privilege of knowing throughout the years and meeting currently is just incredible and something I really, really look up to. So I think the biggest memories with Master Utek is anytime like you listen when he talks, because he talks super quietly. So if you're not listening, you're going to miss what he's saying. And it's very rare that he ever raises his voice. But I think that's such a unique and special characteristic about him, is because it makes you so in tune to what he's going to say. And if he's saying something, it's something of importance. And so, that was something that I really try to, that I do really value from him, because I'm a super loud person. So I appreciate, seeing the other side of things.
Now, you said how far is he away from Fairbanks?
He's 6 hours away. So there's one studio, Wasilla is 5 hours, and then he's 6 hours away.
So if anyone feels like complaining when they have to travel an hour and a half or 2 hours away for something, even see another Tang Soo Do school and travel 5 hours.
Yeah,
we're
miles on our cars, that's for sure, but it's worth it.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah, I find I appreciate those same things. I'm very fortunate that I have quite a few people local to me, and so hearing stories like that make me appreciate it even that much more. So
Definitely.
As far as coming up and taking class, when did you start helping out with classes and teaching?
So I started helping when I was a brown belt. I remember it very distinctly because it was probably the second or third time I was helping, still super new to it. And it was a student's first day and he was learning how to skip. And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to help. And he was a little boy, probably like a year younger than me. And I was like, I'm going to help him skip. And so I go up to him, go to try to talk to him. And he looks me dead in the face and he goes, I can't learn anything from you. You're a girl. And I was like, okay. And this is where I'm so thankful that I had my mom as such an incredible role model from the very beginning. I know that sometimes it can be difficult to train with family. That was never the case for me. I was really blessed in that way. And she set such an incredible example. And so I was able to look right back at him. And I said, well, I can teach you just as well as somebody else can. And, the reason, and I know that was because of the example that she set in me, the self-confidence and just the leadership that she gave me the ability to do that for somebody else. But that was my first moment granted, I immediately ran and told my mom and Master Wick, I'm like, this just happened. But in that moment, I was able to, just really kind of channel her and emulate her and what she's taught me throughout the years. So that was like very beginning. And then the first time I taught on my own was, there were adults in the room because I was 11, but the first time I taught on my own was when I was 11. And it was adults. And kind of the nature of the way I was brought up and the nature of my childhood, I was around adults more than I was around kids. And I guess in social settings is the best way to say it. The next sibling in line from me is 6 years older. So there's a pretty big gap there. So I was always around people older than me. And so I always, and I was given such great examples of professionalism, of respect, of leadership, and how to lead in a humble way. And so I very distinctly remember being a Chodambo and staring at these brand new adults who are looking at me with a very apprehensive look, like, what on earth is this little girl going to help me with or teach me with? But right before I went up there, I remember my mom saying, hey, you know how to do a low block, you know how to do a front kick, just go teach it. And so just that was kind of my first moment teaching. And I really just kind of did what I'd always done and really tried to be like, okay, this is something I know how to do. So how can I help somebody else in that way? But yeah, if it wasn't for the leadership and the role model that she was through my childhood, I know those experiences would have gone very differently. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, it helps to know that someone like her or Master Wick have the confidence to be like, to send over a kid like that to teach adults, because, a regular 11-year-old kid is not going to have the confidence to do that. So that's
well, and I really appreciated too the fact that they let me make mistakes. Right. I floundered at times, and but I learned how from that experience, how to grow from it and not let that defeat me instead. And so kind of having that mindset of, hey, I'm always growing, I'm always learning. There's always something else that I can do to improve. Learning that at such a young age is part of the reason that I do what I do now too, because I want to be able to help that with the next generation and help them see, hey, if you're in an awkward, difficult, uncomfortable situation, but it's a situation that you have the chance to rise up or to sink from, I want them to make that choice to rise. So the fact that I had that opportunity, I like now having the opportunity to give that to somebody else.
Awesome. Let's see, a couple more people saying hello. Miss Pam Russell says hello. You might have to help me with this name. Caitlin Kund.
Caitlin
Kunde.
Oh, Caitlin Kundi. Yes.
Kundi. Okay, there you go. She says hi, Master Sunnie. And
Hello.
I'm guessing this is probably Yoshi, but the region 5 page says hello.
Hello, Tang Soo.
I know Yoshi usually shares stuff from that, so I'm guessing it's Yoshi. So hi, Yoshi. Um, so talking more about what's the full name? The Fairbanks Studio
Oh
is
my gosh, our
it's kind
super
of a
long name.
mouthful, right?
I know it is a mouthful. Even our acronym is a mouthful. So it's Fairbanks World Tang Soo Do Karate Academy. So that's the full name of it. Yeah, I know. There's so many times where I'm like doing like a social media post or something. I'm like, do I do the acronym? Do I do the full name? I'm just like, there's no point in what I choose because they're both a mouthful. So yeah.
So coming up through the ranks and then teaching and being a part of it, and you talked about Master Wick being a part of your family. When he started to get sick and then sadly passed away, how did you guys, I'm assuming your family helped continue keeping the Dojang going?
Yeah. So so I'll back up a little bit.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And it might be a little bit of a segue, but I feel like it's kind of important to mention. So it had been my goal all along to own a studio. Like I said, like, so throughout all the ranks, like that has always, not even before there were even ranks, like that's always been my goal ever since I was a little kid. And so to reach that goal, because of my background, like, with the gymnastics, the dance, and I mean, I grew up in, like I said, middle of nowhere, Alaska. So dirt bikes, horses, like you name it, I had the opportunity for things like that. And so every summer I would go to California. My mom's from California, and so that's where her family lives. And I would use that opportunity to train as well, because we were there for weeks at a time. And so I would train at a gymnastics gym. Unfortunately, there weren't any Tang Soo Do studios right there, but XMAs were right there. And so that was kind of my chance to bring Tang Soo Do and gymnastics together. And so I trained with Mike Chat there. And as well as a couple other instructors, and they were like, hey, have you ever thought about stunting? And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, there's no way. And at this point, I'm in middle school, so I was pretty young when I first started going out there. And they're like, you should really think about stunt doubling. And I was like, you're crazy. There's no way, like, not gonna happen. But then my mom and I kind of started talking about it, because of course, starting your own studio, you need some funds, you need some money to be able to do that. And I was like, what if I did try stunting? And what if that was how I, raised the funds to be able to go start a studio? And so that was kind of the mindset thinking behind that. And I was like, maybe I'm going to go for this. Like, let's see what happens. And so I kept training at XMAs each summer, and I met some really good friends. Like, I have buddies who were just in The Mandalorian. Like, I have friends in the industry. And so I did my freshman year of college at Cal State Fullerton, mainly because they have a degree with business with an emphasis in entertainment. And so I was like, okay, well, that's really helpful, especially if I have my own studio. And then I did some stunt jobs down there. So that was the plan, was for me to, get into stunt doubling, make enough money so that I could open my own studio. After my freshman year, I came back to Alaska. At the time, I had no intention of staying in Alaska for school. I still was planning on going back to California. I was going to take classes online, because when I was on set for stunting, I was there for 12 or 14 hours. So I was missing college classes, and I'm not somebody who can just like slide by. I kind of try hard in that way, that I'm not just like going to be okay with C's. Like, I want to do the best I can. And so I was okay, well, I need to, and obviously, and I was working out there too. And I was training with Region 20. So there was a lot of pieces moving, but I was okay. I'm going to try to take college classes online, so I have more time for auditions and for working and for training, trying to balance that all out. And then I found out that I wasn't going to be allowed to take classes online, because they save that for, you can't do that until you're a junior, unless you're a California resident. Of course, they weren't going to give me residency until I was a junior. So you're kind of stuck in that
Right.
catch-22. And I had scholarships back in Alaska. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back to Alaska, finish my degree, because I know that's something that, because at this point, like I said, I still was fully intending on having a studio. And I was like, even like stunting career is only going to last so long. I'm going to need my business degree no matter what. So I'll go back to Alaska, finish my degree, and then go back to California for stunting. That was the whole plan. That all went down August 2014. When did we find out that he was sick? August 2014. And so there was people thought that I had stayed in Alaska and like that I had found out, and that was why I ended up staying in Alaska. And it actually was the reverse. God just had some different plans. But when it came to us taking over the studio, my mom and him, like honestly, for over 30 years, they talked every single day. It was like, she was very much his go-to person. She was the person who would put him in line when nobody else would. And so they very much, so the transition was honestly seamless. There was a lot of, I think, concern that people were going to leave. And I mean, of course, some people do, that's kind of the nature of it, but it was a very seamless transition because of just because of the relationship that they had and the fact that she was his go-to person. And we were at the studio every single day, 6 days a week. And so there was no big hurdle that needed to be jumped in order for that transition to happen. And so, sorry, excuse me. But so it really, as difficult as it was, obviously, like I said, he truly was family. I don't think the transition could have gone any better. And like I said, that's due to the role that my mom has played in the studio since the get-go.
That's awesome. And amazing that your parent, she was in the position to be able to just, have the reins handed over to her. And, that speaks a lot to your mom and the fact that Master Wick, the two of them had that relationship and friendship for so many years. I'll obviously talk about this with her, but was that through martial arts? They were friends through the martial arts?
Yep, exactly. So, like I said, I'll let her tell more of the story of how we actually got into the studio. But yeah, so it started with my oldest sibling training, and that was how they met. And like I said, she and I are basically the same person. And I don't want to say something. I know she's
that's okay.
But I will say that he called her as an orange belt to come in and teach. It was just, he knew that she was somebody he could really rely on. And my dad was always there too, but my dad worked a full-time job, had a full-time job, and then would come to the studio right after work and then be there 9 or 10 o'clock at night too. So, it just, because of the role that we all had in there, that's what made the transition go as well as it did.
Gotcha. I'll share a quick, so 2016 was my second year at Master's Clinic, and that was the last year he was at Master's Clinic, and he was teaching a self-defense class. And as candidates, they made us, I probably would have went to it anyway, but they made us go to it. I remember my wife goes, she's like, whatever you do, just stand in the back and don't volunteer for anything.
Good advice. Very good advice.
Yeah. So I'm standing there, and then he goes, candidates, raise your hand. Then I can't not raise my hand.
Right.
So he's like, you and you and you. And of course, one of them's me. And he has Master Priest on one side, me on another side, and I think one other person. And he's talking about like 3-on-1. And he's like, so what you do first is, and he just smacked me right across the face.
I would love to say I'm surprised.
Yeah. And so he's like, you hit this guy first. And it's just like, no warning or anything, just right across the face. So,
yeah. Oh, sorry you had to go through that.
It's a great story. I can say that I got smacked in the face by Master Wick.
Yeah, there you go.
Couple more people say, Master Fairley says hello.
Hello.
Mr. Wagner from Alabama says hello. Master Velasquez Jairo says he's chanting Sunnie, Sunnie.
Oh man.
Ian Crook from Bristol says hello. Master Setianto just says hello, and that might be a good segue for us. And Tom Lyon says good afternoon. So the first time I had ever heard your name was when the HDL was starting up, and I know that Master Giselle Sharp was kind of the figurehead of that. And as I mentioned, Master Setianto, Master Mabrook are great friends of mine. And I remember it was the two of them and you, and then Master Osiah Robinson were kind of like the first four people. Mm-hmm. So maybe talk to us about how you got started with the HDL, and you got brought in. Obviously, hearing your stories to kind of understand why you got brought in. But
well, yeah, first huge shout out to everybody you just mentioned. I mean, gosh, such incredible people, so talented, just amazing, amazing human beings and amazing martial artists. So just, yeah, that experience in itself is amazing getting to work with them. But so at a master's clinic, Master Giselle Sharp, like you mentioned, had done a presentation on HDL. And apparently that she had mentioned in there that there was going to be tumbling, that was going to be something like it was going to be incorporated into the program. And so Master Wick had mentioned my name to her. Apparently a couple other people had as well. At this point, Master Wick was sick. And so he was no longer, he wasn't in at the studio. But so Master Sharp contacted my mom and asked how she could get in contact with me. And I hadn't had the pleasure of meeting Master, really any of them. I hadn't met any of the people we just talked about yet. Didn't know what a treat I was in for. But so she asked for video footage of me teaching normal classes and of me teaching the tumbling class that I mentioned earlier. And so yeah, filmed those and sent those to her, and kind of the rest is history. That was how that came to be. So it's, yeah, such an incredible program to be a part of, and just amazing people to work with.
Now, as far as I know, there's specific forms and things like that. Do you have a hand in creating the curriculum that they do for HDL for the two different groups, or?
Not for the forms, nope. So my primary role being brought in was teaching tumbling and kind of adding that aspect, as well as the choreography aspect for some of it, just because of what I've done with our own studios. But no, that's all Master Robinson, Master Sargento, Master Maverick. They created incredible forms. Oh my gosh, love them.
Now, as far as you mentioned choreography with your mom, was that just something you kind of picked up from her, that she picked up from just doing martial arts demos, or?
Yeah, that'll be how she got into it. It'll be a great question for her, because that was before I was born. But yeah, so she has always, so the first demo was in 92. Like I said, the thing is, I know all these stories, but they're not mine to tell. So I can't tell.
I know.
So she got started with it. And then, like I mentioned to you, I love dance, and with gymnastics, the floor routines were my favorite to do. And I loved creating my own. And so music, I feel like, has just always been a big part of both of our lives. And for some reason, just the being able to see a group of people in our minds doing certain things at certain times just works for both of us. And something that at times makes people go, what do you want them to do? But usually we can make it happen. So yeah, it was something that I feel like was kind of just a gift that was there. And then obviously once I learned it more from her and kind of honed my skill with her, and she and I co-choreographed our 2016 demo. So
it really is a gift. I'm not a big picture person when it comes to demos like that. If you start it, I'm one of those people that can be like, that's great. I think if we do this, like, I'm the little details. I can handle little details, but coming up with the big picture is not my strong suit. Like when my wife and I have done the demos together, she's got the big picture, and then I just help, push the big picture along.
Great team. Hey, works well.
If you could just touch base a little bit, like, I guess from your perspective, that 2016 demo, and what that meant to you and the studio after Master Wick passed away.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is that demo, actually, the concept of it came to be when he was very much alive. So he wasn't even sick yet when we came up with that concept. My mom and I choreograph, we have to have the music first, and then we choreograph from that. And so we hadn't done a world championship demo since 2000. And we had kind of toyed with ideas, tossed around the idea of a demo, but neither one of us had really been inspired by music yet. But then for King and Country, the Christian band that the music we used it from, they are like one of my all-time favorite bands. So being a total fangirl, in 2014, they had just come out with a new album. And I was like, Mom, we got to listen to this on the drive home. Like I said, long drive, 45 minutes, pretty good time to listen to a full album. So we're sitting there, and the first song comes on. We're both sitting there silently, and we just stopped and we looked at each other. Mind you, like I said, this is in 2014. And we looked at each other and we said, I guess we're doing a demo. And that song just hit us both. Like, no words talked before, like, oh, this might be good for a demo. Like, we weren't even talking about a demo. I wasn't playing it for her for a demo. Like, I just love the band. And we just, from that moment, so it was the song title was Fix My Eyes. And so obviously that goes into Shisun and how important that is and what we do. And so while the initial idea of it and concept of it wasn't necessarily, to honor any particular person, like I said, he was very much alive. He very much, was there when it was kind of taking form. What it turned out to be and what it ended up being. And we are really humbled by the fact that we feel like it honored a lot of people who came before us and, will come after us, because on that, so at the ending banner, it's actually, I don't know if you even knew this, but so, because it went up pretty fast, but it was Grandmaster Shin's eyes at the bottom of that banner.
Oh, okay.
And so that was, so there was a lot that demo came to be without us even realizing that it was going to be all that it was, if that makes sense. So it was, incredibly special to be a part of, and something that, just, we were very, very grateful and humbled by the way it was received by everyone.
Yeah, it was one of those demos, like the response from it, like that's not something that that's like a once in a lifetime response, like live, you know what I mean? Like I just remember the whole, however many thousands of people that were there were like standing and cheering. It was pretty amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, crazy experience.
So that was 2016, and I can imagine I'm probably having such a long travel from Alaska to North Carolina, which is kind of ironic since you're in North Carolina now. How many people were in that team?
So we had 33 on that team.
Awesome.
Yep. And oh my gosh, moving that banner, that was the thing, like getting that down there was the thing that we were like, okay, how are we going to do this? Like, how are we going to get it all the way there? And then we had people who brought steamers and things like that, because they didn't want it to be wrinkled. And it was cool though, because one of our families, his name is Britton, his dad is in the military. And so he had several free bags that we were able to use for shipping things. And they were gracious enough that it was like, we sent so much stuff with them to get it all down there. And we had the flag broken up into different pieces, and we had hand sewn that whole flag. And it was so funny because the kanji on it, we had it done and we had it checked, like made sure that it was like accurate, right? Because I don't know how to read kanji, but we were like, okay, cool. And then we're like, let's get it checked one more time. And we had somebody else check it, and they were like, yeah, no, that's not what it doesn't say what you think it says. And we were like, are you kidding me? And it had already been sewn on. And so it was a matter of like ripping that off. So it was a process, but it was really cool. And having the support that we did, like I said, from our own studio, and then also from the association just meant the world. It was really cool.
That's awesome. And I love a little behind the scenes, that if you haven't done a creativity demonstration before, like the amount of hours that go into putting together a 5-minute demonstration is just absurd.
Oh yeah. And like, even, and then you add costumes and things like that.
Exactly.
And it's like, yep.
It's a big team effort, which is awesome, but yeah, it's a lot of work. Couple more people saying hi. Sarah Lynn Smith Fingerleaf from greetings from Deutschland. Brendan Gantome here from Region 8 says hello. Barbara Noriega says greetings from San Diego.
Hello, warm San Diego.
And I know, right? Mr. Bracco from Connecticut, and Master Amarim from South Africa says hello.
Hello, ma'am.
So it's awesome. Everyone's watching along. So one of the things I wanted to touch base on is we've talked about your gymnastics experience. And one of the things that, if you follow Sunnie on social media, you'll see lots of handstands. So I was joking, most people will, throw kicks out or flying side kicks or things like that. Your thing is the handstand. Where did that, obviously it's from gymnastics, but when we were like, that's gonna be my thing.
Yeah, so it started in Hawaii. I was 12 years old, there for a gymnastics meet, and we were just driving past the beach, and we stopped and got out, looked at a spot, and there were 2 huge signs that said like, warning, no swimming, like stay out of the water. And I remember saying to my mom, and I was like, personally, I would not come here to swim. mind you, again, Alaskan girl. I didn't even learn how to swim until I was like 12. And so not many opportunities in Alaska for that. But I was like, I would rather come to the beach to tumble. And so she was like, you should like do a handstand or something. And so, on old style cameras, well before iPhones, we took picture after picture after picture of trying to get me in a handstand between these two signs. And that was kind of where it started. And where it went from that, like, I would see a cool spot, but it kind of ended up meaning more to me in the sense that a handstand is really the core of like all gymnastics and all tumbling. Like if you don't have a solid handstand, you're not going to be a good tumbler. And so with that being the core of tumbling, it kind of just became part of who I am, and just kind of because gymnastics and, karate and things like that are the core of who I am. And it just kind of like makes me me, and just became something that I now do anytime that I find a cool spot to do it. So,
or if you're challenged.
Yes, or if I'm challenged, I probably shouldn't say this, but I have yet to turn down a challenge. So like I said, that's a little scary saying that, but yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen quite a few people challenge you to a handstand contest, and everyone loses.
Well, it's funny because the reason it kind of became something that I really worked to perfect as much as possible is I had a really serious injury in gymnastics that left me almost paralyzed, and it took months, but doing handstands is one of the best ways to really develop your core strength. And so it was something that, I lived in handstands. I did them all the time. And how my handstands were going was kind of my gauge of when I was going to be able to get back to gymnastics. And so that's kind of why they mean a lot to me, as silly as that may seem. Yeah, they really are kind of a core part of who I am.
Awesome. No pun intended, right?
Yeah.
Lindsay Dojang says, our son Jacob did a team t-shirt swap with Britt Kneebone at the 2018 championships.
Awesome.
We can't wait to meet up with him in 2022. And I guess she's kept in contact with his mom. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, he has mentioned that before. So that's great. Yeah, definitely. I think we're all really excited for 2022.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
Next month, not next month. Yeah, no, it is next month. We have nationals coming up. Are you coming?
I am.
Awesome.
Yep, I'm going to be driving from here. So yeah, it'll be good.
Awesome. Yeah, it'll be good. Master Setianto, and this is so true. He says you have to sacrifice any music you use to the creativity gods. Meaning, like, you hear it so many times, whether you liked that song or not, you hate it by the time you're done.
Yeah, man, yeah. And you can't help but doing whatever part, like whatever you're doing during that part. Oh my gosh, when I hear some of the songs still, I can't help but take myself back to the demo, and I'm like, whatever moves I was doing, I'm doing them right now because.
Absolutely, my kids do the same exact thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Mr. Bracco asked, how's the move going? So the studio is moving, right?
It is, yeah. So we have, as most people know, been in the same place for over 30 years now, and it's time. It honestly has just become too expensive. The mall is not willing. They have never, honestly. Master Wick even used to say that he wished, there was a time he could have bought the whole mall that we're in for $125,000. And the times I heard him say, I wish I would have just bought the whole thing and didn't have to deal with management. Because they, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, with rent and things like that, it's been at a point that, they don't have any leeway. They're upping rent again, another 20%. And it's not feasible anymore. We can't stay there anymore. And with COVID and things like that, they offered zero support, zero anything. And so, yeah, and it's going. We're the place that we're moving to, we will own. So we're really excited about that. Initially, for now, it is a much smaller space, but we trust that our students, we know they're awesome. We're family, like you said, and just having their support means a lot during this time, because really when it comes down to it, a building is just a building. We're not, the memories are going to come with us. And we're excited for, what the future holds. Of course, it's never fun to have to do a move like this. But yeah, we just appreciate the support that we're getting from our families, and I just want them to hang in tight with us through the transition, because like I said, it is going to be a smaller space for a while. But it was necessary. It was something that had to happen. And I mean, adaptability is something that we're used to in the association, and it's just something that, yeah, we're glad to have family to support us through it.
Yeah, especially in the past couple of years, like being able to be flexible and, adapt is kind of the name of the game lately.
Exactly. And we have plans for, adding on in the future and things like that. So it's not like we're gonna stay in our little space for now.
Right.
But yeah, so just, yeah, we appreciate, like I said, just appreciate everybody all of our families and students who are sticking with us throughout it. So
I know you were saying that you did a lot of traveling for gymnastics. Outside of like California and going to the World Championships, are there any other places you've been able to go and train and teach for the Tang Soo Do?
Yeah. So went to Aruba for an HDL clinic, and that was such an incredible experience because I mean, everything's different, right? You have different country, different language, different culture, different food, but Tang Soo Do was the same. And that's what was so amazing about it. Master Noguera and her entire team were so welcoming. They made us feel like home, made it feel like home as soon as we got there. And another really cool aspect of that was the fact that my husband got to come too. Due to the nature of the military, he hasn't been able to go to any world championships or anything like that. Of course, when we're in North Carolina, 2020, that happens. The one he was going to be able to go to never fails. But so even though he had been to regional events and things like that, that was his first international experience with Tang Soo Do. And so it gave him kind of a little peek into what our whole world is actually like and what it's about. So that experience was incredible. So went there, and then I went to Myrtle Beach. I went to a tournament there in 2019. So yeah, looking forward to even more travels in the future. But yeah.
Cool. So you're what region? Is that sick? No, what region are you? Is North Carolina?
I should 100% know the answer.
I know, I'm so bad. Is that Master?
You had to ask me that.
I know, sorry. I feel bad now too. Moving on.
Well, it's both of us. Hey, at least it's both of us, right?
Yeah, right. So we're getting close to wrapping up. We're at 2:00. We started 5 minutes late because of me. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to touch base on before we finish up?
I think the last thing that I'd like to just touch on quickly is just going to Master's Clinic and what that experience was like. Being in Alaska, we were so grateful. People took the time to come visit up there quite a bit, and so I got to meet so many incredible people through that. And then getting to Master's Clinic and being in the same room with so many people that inspire me, that set examples that I have looked up to my entire life, was truly, I mean, one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And the kind of feeling where you're like, I totally don't belong here. So just being in that room, and it was something that Master Wick and I had talked about so many times growing up throughout the years. And he would never tell me too much, right? He'd just give me those little tidbits of what it was like in his little stories. But even though it was really emotional for me, especially like right before I went on that Florida test, because like I said, it was just something that I knew, even though he wasn't actually there, I truly believe he knew I was there. And so just felt really, really connected to him through that. And just the support and getting to be there with my parents. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of emotion all wrapped up in that, just because I knew that everybody, whether they were physically in that room or not, the people who shaped me into who I am, and just set such incredible examples my whole life. It was just so humbling and such an incredible opportunity. So
it's probably crazy. You look back, the fact that you started as a kid, and then however many 20 years later that you're here. You probably saw your mom going for years before that.
It's
and Master Wick.
Yep. And it was, I mean, a dream my entire life. And so, having that come to life is just awesome. So
that's cool.
Very grateful.
Awesome. And you mentioned people coming to visit. I know Master Christina Olsen recently was up there. I've seen my friends, the Falschnauts have come up there, and Mr. Bracco was there too recently, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Fantastic. And we just, that's something to everybody who's come up to visit. We're so grateful. And the fact that you take time either whether you're coming up for Tang Soo Do or you take time out of your vacation up there to stop by the studio. I mean, it means the world. And we're so appreciative of everybody who's done that. So yeah, keep coming. You're welcome anytime. We'd love to have you.
Master Olson said you're the best host.
Thank you.
You guys were roommates at Master's Clinic, right?
So funny story. So we never actually were. That's kind of the big joke behind it. So you always see, I know. So you always.
Oh, that's right. She was with Master Sharp. I knew that.
Yeah. And so Master Sharp was actually how we got connected. And then the next year, there was like all sorts of mix up, and Master Olson got a room by herself. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. But so, we're one of these years.
That's right. I totally forgot that. We talked about that when I got a chance to talk with her. She said you surprised her at the airport.
I did. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah. It was good. I love surprises. I'm all about them. So
she said roomies in PA.
Yes, exactly. That's the plan. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yes. I'm looking forward to it as well. It seems like there's going to be lots of, it'll be the first, we have black belt testing on the 11th of this month, and we'll have, for the first time in a while, everyone kind of in the same place. And then in October, it'll be almost kind of like a Master's Clinic or Worlds, I guess, where everyone will be in one place. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Same here. Really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time out and sharing your stories with us. Like I said, in a couple of weeks, I'll be talking to your parents. So I'm looking forward to that, to hear the other side of some of those stories that we talked about.
Definitely. And just, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I know, just taking your time. These interviews are incredible, and you taking your time to do that is much appreciated. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It really is an honor, and it's fun for me. One of the things I always say, like, we would never have the opportunity to sit down for an hour to just chat at really any event.
Yeah.
So yeah, except maybe downtime if, at like HDL or things like that, but I'm sure you guys are always pretty busy with that as well. So thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in person in October. And everyone, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Bye.
Tang Soo.
Tang Soo.